Hello, I am going to talk about the bone tool in Flash. I'm using CS5, but it's also available in CS4. There's two types of modes. One is just applying a bone structure to a shape, and then there's another method in which you can connect different symbols or movie clips with the bone tool. So the first one we're talking about is shape. It's best to just use simple shapes. But you could make a kind of a slithery character or octopus or something, and then use the bone tool to make his appendages look fluid and slithery. So I'm going to select the bone tool out of the toolbar, and this has to be shaped to do this method. If it's a movie clip or something, you'd have to be inside it. You'd have to manipulate a shape. So I know it's a shape because when I click it, it has all these dotty lines on it, or dotty dots on it. So I'm going to grab the bone tool and click, hold, and drag. Click, hold, and drag. And everywhere I'm letting go, that's going to be a joint, or a place I can manipulate the shape. So click, hold, and drag until I get to the end. Okay. You should notice that when you do that, you get a special layer. It says Armature 4. I'm just going to call it Shape. Well, apparently it needs a numbered layer. Okay. Alright, and now this could be manipulated. Just use my selection tool. I can manipulate this several ways. It's not perfect. If you look, the shape kind of gets deformed. It's not one that I utilize too often with the shape, but it's pretty neat, and that could be animated. So if I get some timeline here, some frames by pressing F5, and I give it an ending position, it will tween to that point, which is pretty interesting. Okay, if I click one of these, I can take a look at some of the advanced properties. Each joint has its own set of properties. If you can see, it says IK bone name 6, IK bone name 5, 7, 8, 9, and you could toggle through that or traverse through that using these arrows. And with this, you could constrain rotation, or its X movement, or its Y movement. You can add a spring to it to give it a little bit more natural look. Okay, so that's it in a nutshell. I mean, essentially, you can give joints to solid shapes. All right, now we're going to use the bone tool to manipulate a group of symbols. So if you think of this robot, each one of these shapes is an appendage, and we're going to connect those to make a joint. And if you just think of these like a puppet, and you want to be able to manipulate each joint and be able to tween that, so we're going to use the bone tool for that. Essentially, these need to be symbols. And they don't have to be on the same layer at this point, but when you connect them, they'll be put on the same layer. You can create a pretty intricate shape, like you could conceivably link the hips to the legs, both legs to the same hip, both arms to the same body and head. I think there's a little bit more versatility in just keeping the right arm on its own layer, the left arm on its own layer, etc. But you can do it any way you like. With the bone tool, you want to start at where you consider your primary connection point, or the master. So in this case of this arm, I want this to be the primary joint. So I'm going to click, hold, and drag to the next joint, and that's going to connect those two. Now I have it apart so I could kind of see where I was connecting. So you can see that you can manipulate this joint, which is pretty neat. Now I want these connected, so this is something to pay attention to. If you want to move these, you can't move them because it thinks you want to tween it or manipulate it via that joint system. So you have to use a free transform tool. So you can press Q or click the free transform tool, and then just manipulate that joint, and it should update. So now it knows that you want to connect it. So I like them separated so I can see where they're being connected, and you can fine-tune their position via this free transform tool. So I'm going to grab both of these instances and put it in the right location. Back to my direct selection tool, and now I've got those two connected, and these can be animated if I want him to wave or whatever. So let's connect the legs. So you can only connect one point per shape, so you can't connect, an instinct would be to connect to the other joint, but you want to connect to the point of rotation and the next point of rotation on the next shape. Alright, direct selection tool, let's see if it's working. It is. So let's grab the free transform tool this time and just move that up. Okay. Got a foot that I had forgotten, so let's grab that bone tool, click, hold, and drag down to the foot. So now that foot is connected, and I'm just going to use a free transform tool to position that. Okay, and let's move that up here. Okay, so now I have armature 8 and armature 10. So let's name this right. It's actually his left arm, but I'm looking at it, it's on my right. If that's confusing to you, just name it something else. Alright, so let's grab that selection tool and see if it's working. So now he could dance about, I can move him about, etc. Go ahead and join up the rest of these two arms, and then don't worry about joining the head or the body. You can just manipulate that and make sure looks like it's together.